What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Moto Fever Media video. So today I want to kind of jump into the Austin Forkner situation as far as how he crashed and his injury, as well as how the Alpinestar medical team responded to his crash, as well as a few safety measures that I think we could possibly put in place to try to prevent this kind of thing from happening again. So as I'm sure by now, most of you have seen, Austin Forkner suffered a pretty horrible crash in Arlington. He flew off the side of the track and landed on the concrete. He had a hard impact on the concrete and went sliding, which was honestly pretty hard to watch, and we'll get into that in a second. But the first thing I want to talk about is a lot of you guys are noticing that the Alpinestar medical team actually walked him over to the mule after the crash and then drove him out of the stadium. So there seems to be some general frustration regarding the way that was handled. Obviously, he did end up fracturing 2 of his vertebrae in his back. He was in a neck brace to help keep his neck isolated, but other than that, he was pretty much not stabilized when it comes to the rest of his back. So it seems like the general concern is that why wasn't he put on a backboard? Why was he, allowed to walk over? And I do share some of those same concerns. So I don't personally know any of the Alpinestar medical team, unfortunately, but I did reach out to some paramedics and EMTs that I know and just kind of asked them in general why something like that would even happen. And their response was pretty interesting. So they brought up a good point, which is that if he was able to be awake and alert and aware of his surroundings and what day it is and all that, he is actually able to refuse medical treatment. So even if they are advising him to get on the backboard or a stretcher or whatever the case may be, he can actually just tell them no and go ahead and walk out of there. Now, obviously, things are a little bit different. I'm sure he has to sign some sort of, release of liability when he competes in supercross racing, and they could put some sort of clause in there saying that if the Alpinestar medical team deems you unfit, whatever, they can tell you basically, look, man, you're not getting up, you're not allowed to walk, just stay down. Now, obviously, this is all speculation. We don't know for sure whether Austin, told him that, hey, I'm walking over to that mule, you're not putting me on board. What we do know for a fact is that he was knocked unconscious for somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes, and then he came to, and then he was able to walk off the track. Now, having said that, as someone who has been knocked unconscious on a racetrack, as well as been carted off on a backboard and a stretcher, and also obviously walked off, I would definitely try to walk off the track if I was anywhere near conscious. So I do understand if that's the case, as far as Austin telling him, hey, look, I'm walking over to the mule, don't put me on a board, like I got this. So like I said, I do understand if that's what happened, how he could want to do that. However, I also know that when you hit your head pretty hard, you don't even know what your body's really doing for quite a while. For example, one time I hit my head pretty hard and I was unaware of the situation, and I actually finished the race with a pretty severely separated shoulder to where I couldn't even, move my shoulder afterwards, but while I was still on the track, I didn't even really notice it. So what I'm trying to say is I had no business continuing my race, and he probably had no business walking to that mule, but you don't really know that when, you hit your head that hard and you're not aware of what's really going on with your body. So all that is to say, if that is the case, I think it would be great if the AMA would update their policy or their release of liability, their contract with Alpinestars, whatever the case may be, to say that if you're down, the medical team has the option to override your wants and put you on a board to cart you off, regardless of your awareness or your decisions. If they basically deem you unfit, that they could go ahead and take over, put you on a board, and cart you off for your own safety. Now, again, most of this is speculation, but it is kind of an educated guess. So all I'm saying is that if that's the case, I think that would be a great step to take. Now, moving on to his actual impact on the side of the track, I know a lot of people have been pretty concerned with the way he was able to just fly off the track from that height at that speed and just slam into concrete. So I've heard a lot of ideas and suggestions as far as anything from just spread the dirt around more to let's get wrestling mats out there and all kinds of stuff, which, I think it's good that we're searching for answers. I don't think that adding dirt on the side of the track would necessarily help with that kind of a crash. I think that it would help with avoiding people going down when they go off the side of the track and they're trying to ride to get back on the track. At least it would give them some grip to work with. But then I think you would just see more penalties like the Jason Anderson penalty at Anaheim, where people are accelerating off on the side of the track. So all I'm trying to say is I don't know that dirt is the answer. Sure, it's a little bit softer than concrete, but I think that, with the height and the speed that Austin hit the ground, I think that if anything, the added friction would have just probably tore him up a little bit more, took a lot more skin off. And I doubt it would have padded his fall enough to make any real difference. Now, as far as putting mats down or something like that, I think that is a pretty interesting idea. It would give more marketing opportunities for them to put banners all around the track as far as, to cover the mats. And it would definitely, give those guys something to fall on. And it wouldn't have to just be on the exterior edges. You could put it on the inside edges of triples where there's a lot of space to the inside and whatever. You could put them around the track, and I think that'd be great. However, they already haul around a bunch of tough blocks, and I don't think they have enough space to logistically haul around a bunch of wrestling mats. I don't think it would be that realistic. I'm sure they could figure it out, but I think that it wouldn't be the best solution. One thing that I do think is definitely worth considering as far as logistically speaking that could work out is something similar to the freestyle airbags that they use that they put on the landing ramps. Maybe you could get some of those and you could put them in key spots. Now, obviously, there's still some logistical issues like where are we going to be able to drive the mule around at, as well as where are we going to put the inflation motor to where it's not causing more detriment than benefit, as far as these guys could be landing on the motor, and then it would just be better to at least give them a smooth surface like the concrete to land on, rather than have this motor blowing up an airbag that's in the way. So I don't know that there's a really good solution. I think the airbags is interesting just because they can make them in custom shapes and sizes, as well as put all kinds of marketing brands on there, and then they can deflate them, and they're relatively small and easy to, move around. But at the end of the day, I think what it boils down to is that supercross is a dangerous sport, and if you're going to be crashing, it's going to be bad regardless. And, whether it's concrete or airbag, it's probably bad. I'm sure an airbag would help if you were able to perfectly land right on it, but the chances of that happening are not very high, and I just don't know that it does make a lot of sense to try to put anything around the edges of the track with all the other logistical issues it brings up, like what if somebody's trying to ride around on the side of the track because they got pushed off, or what if the mule needs to go from here to there, or, where are we going to put this motor to blow up the airbag, or if we're doing wrestling mats, like I said, how are we going to haul all these mats around, and, just a bunch of stuff like that. Plus with the wrestling mat thing, those guys ride across at one time and give it some throttle, that thing's already getting torn up. So it's just there's not really a clear-cut good solution to try to help these guys out more than they already do. I think that there's got to be something we can find as far as to try to prevent these guys from, just smacking into the concrete like that. It's not the first time what happened. The other recent time that comes to mind is when Webb was trying to go over that dragon's back and ended up flipping onto the concrete on his back. Also, luckily it wasn't as high or as fast as Austin's was, so he was relatively okay compared to Austin. He was really banged up, but I think he still raced the rest of the season. Now, thankfully, the AMA did do some things to try to prevent stuff like that happening, like getting rid of dragon's backs, which I think was a great step. However, as far as taking it a step further, I'm not really sure which direction they should go, other than just try to keep making the tracks themselves safer. But then you got to keep a fine line between making the tracks safer to just making them too easy, and now the racing's no good. Hard to say, but those are some things that I think that we could look into as a sport to try to make things a little bit safer. But yeah, that's really all I got for you today on this video. So thanks for coming along, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.